Friday night edition of Night Talk on PCNC. Let's get to the point.
Hello. Well, are you ready for a little madness? March Madness, that is. Maybe Pitt unfortunately didn't make it through the Sweet 16, and they're not in the Elite 8. But hey, we've got the Final Four here, or maybe the Fabulous Four. I've got three wonderful guests and myself here tonight, and I welcome you to PCNC's Night Talk Get to the Point. I am Dr. Audrey Gusky, a marketing professor at Duquesne University, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you're here tonight. We have some really hot topics and cool guests. Maybe I should say cool topics and hot guests, and we're absolutely delighted that you're here. Please pull up a chair. Nowhere in the Pittsburgh area can you get this kind of wonderful news and opportunity to understand the timely issues of the Pittsburgh area. Let me introduce the guests to you. To my left, I have a gentleman, Rick Stouffer. He is he's with the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. He's been there for about 8 years now, and we welcome him to the show. I have Dan Reynolds to his left. Dan is with the Pittsburgh Business Times, and you've been there for a few years, so you're a relative rookie, and this is your rookie opening night.
That's true.
So I welcome both of you. And to the end, to my immediate left, is Ron Morris, a good friend of mine. He's a colleague at Duquesne University. He is the chair, the department, the head of the entrepreneurial program, as well as you're the star of the American Entrepreneur, which you can hear every Saturday morning from 9 until noon.
Thank you.
It's the only radio station in the Pittsburgh area that offers you news and information and advice as far as entrepreneurs go. So we're all excited to be here. These three gentlemen really have their pulse in the Pittsburgh area. I don't think you can get a better panel as far as understanding demographically what's happening, business-wise what's happening, entrepreneurial. And so what we want to do is give you some information. I guess as an educator, I want to share with you and teach you and inform you, entertain you, and enlighten you. And that's what we're hoping to do tonight. First topic on the board, we want to talk about basically the Pittsburgh area and the growth. What kinds of opportunities are there? Economically, what are we looking for down the road this year and down in the future? And some very interesting studies just came out today. In the Pittsburgh Business Times, they were talking about a Brookings study that was just released today. It's an update from a study they had done in 2003. And basically what they're saying is that Pennsylvania is very slow as far as economic growth goes. We're still the sixth largest state. Our population growth remains the slowest, though, one of the slowest. We're 46th in the nation. So it's only 1.2% increasing. So it doesn't sound too good. As far as business growth, we've got a 1.1% employment growth, which sounds to be fair between 2000 and 2006. But if you compare that to 3.3 nationwide, it may be a little bit concern to us. Even though we did go from 45th to 37th in those years 2000 to 2006. But if you look at the growth, where is it happening? It's happening in Allentown, it's happening at State College, and it's happening in Lancaster, unlike the cities like Williamsport, Erie, and Pittsburgh who lost jobs. So we want to talk about what's happening. Maybe there is some potential for us. I'm an optimist. Hopefully you are too, and that's what we want to talk about tonight. So let me turn it over to you, Rick, first of all. And you know, what are your predictions as far as economic growth for the Pittsburgh area?
Well, I think the Pittsburgh market, the Pittsburgh region, has been a traditional slow growth area going back decades. I mean, I think you could go back to when the steel mills started to shut down. People were looking for, what do we do next? And so until that mindset was changed and that we have to go forward, we have to, you know, make our way, this area struggled. And I think overall, the Pittsburgh region has never been quick or has never had large increases, but I would say post the steel mills closing, they've never had big troughs, never high mountains, never large deep troughs. It's been sort of in the middle, and I think that might go back to the conservative roots of the area.
Sure.
A lot of things seem to stem from that.
Dan, why don't you fill us in on what you're
Sure. I think there's nothing wrong with slow growth. I think slow growth is good, and you have to compare apples to apples when you're talking numbers. If you compare Pennsylvania to similar-sized economies, we're growing very well. We're growing faster than most. So you can't compare us to Nevada, which is 1/10 the size of our economy, and say we're growing slower. Of course they're growing faster. So when you compare apples to apples, we're doing very well, and Pittsburgh is doing very well. So just watch it. You have to watch yourself with numbers because there's lots of different ways to look at them.
I think you also have to watch as to what kinds of jobs are being created. And I think this area tends to create higher paying jobs, simply because the lower paying jobs, the fast foods and so on and so forth, tend to be created faster in areas that are growing faster. But since this area isn't growing faster yet, you're still seeing an increase.
Sure.
Then I bet if you really dig into the numbers, that the jobs being created here actually are on a higher scale, which is good. I mean, I'd rather have slow growth with higher paying jobs than faster growth, but a lot of the jobs were low service type jobs.
Yeah. Ron, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I can't tell you why the numbers are what they are, but I can tell you how to get there, and that, of course, is to entrepreneur your way to the future. And what you were saying earlier, Rick, there's a mindset in this region that, and I remember when I was in high school, and I won't say when, but the older people would say to me, "Who are you going to work for when you graduate?" And that's burned into our cerebrum. And what we've got to do now is, and what we're doing is breaking away from that. And people are spinning off, starting their own companies, and those companies are growing. And fortunately, people are getting reasonable stock options in those endeavors. And thus, when the company sells or has some liquidation event, then they can invest in the next business. If you've ever been to the Hillman Cancer Center, you're talking growth. You're talking halcyonic growth. If you've ever been down to certain areas of the South Side in Oakland, you know that the startups in the high-tech area. Now, these can be high-paying jobs, but the high-tech sector is kind of like Hail Mary. You either score a touchdown or you lose 13 yards. But the medical field is growing like crazy, and spin-offs are happening like crazy. I don't think a lot of people in this region haven't. I know you folks do because you're wired in, but I don't think a lot of our viewers tonight have any clue as to how much growth is going on in medical and medical spin-offs.
And that's why we're here tonight. And so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Audrey Guskey from Duquesne University, and joining me tonight is Ron Morris, also from Duquesne University, and star entrepreneur. We have Dan Reynolds from the Pittsburgh Business Times, who basically covers retail and I think you said manufacturing types of things.
Yeah.
And Rick Stouffer, who is from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, who does the retail and various business. And we were talking before the break about growth in the Pittsburgh area, growth in Pennsylvania, what we can possibly do. And I wanted to turn it back to you, Ron, since you've been cut off a little bit. And if you wanted, you have started 11 businesses in your lifetime. You started around 72.
That's not in my lifetime, that's in 12 lifetimes.
12 lifetimes plus. And I think it would be nice to share maybe some of your experiences that you have and give some advice to people who are hoping to start some businesses.
Well, starting a business is I always call entrepreneurship the Marine Corps of business, because generally speaking, the Marines have a great slogan: adapt, improvise, and overcome. And that's what entrepreneurship's all about. You don't have great resources to rely upon, and oftentimes you're doing a lot of guerrilla tactics just to survive. I think it's the greatest thing. I have never worked a day in my life that I've had my own company. Now, every now and then I sell a business, and I got to go put the handcuffs on and work for somebody else for a year. And I always make sure it's held up less than a year because I usually get fired. But it's entrepreneurship. It's probably not for everybody, but it's for more people than I think because. Entrepreneurs themselves tend to have a personality that has, they got holes in it. They're what I call gas pedal people. They step on the gas and they think sales are the answer to everything, for the most part. And it's really good for them to marry up with brake pedal people who can slow them down and point out the realities of situations, because entrepreneurs get star-crossed all the time. And they have this belief that nothing is impossible, which, may be true, but they do need to pair up. So I always tell my students at Duquesne, if you're not a person to start a business, don't fear, because there's an opportunity for you to be a number 2, a number 3. And in fact, at Duquesne, I'm trying to turn out those people, because right up the road at Carnegie Mellon, we have lots of high tech. The Don Jones School for Entrepreneurial Studies, the Don Jones School at CMU is cranking out a lot of very big-time business plans that are businesses are highly venture capitalized, ton of money, but they need number twos and number threes and so on and so forth. But I think if I'll just say this real quick and I'll shut up. Back when I was coming out of school in 1971, there were no resources, there were no entrepreneurial programs, there were no American Entrepreneur Radio Show. You were on your own. And today, all these resources exist. There were only 3 entrepreneurial programs in the country in 1980. Today, there are 2,100. I'm talking about schools. So the resources are out there. The mentors are out there. The money has always been there. The ideas, of course, are myriad. And so you throw that all in a vat and you shake it up and you get the right personalities. And we should have entrepreneurial startups. And if I could just convince the leaders of government to think more in that regard than we need these 1,000-person companies, because they're not coming. They're gone. They're not coming.
Right. And it seems like that's where the growth is going to be in the Pittsburgh area. It has to be entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, you are very optimistic because you're part of Proud Pittsburgh. I've seen some articles that you've written suggesting that there's a lot of opportunities and we should be really optimistic.
I think there's a great mix here, and I think again, as I said earlier, slow growth is not bad. It's a stable economy. Per capita income here is growing faster on average than most cities in the country. So there's a lot of good news here, and I think we have great resources. And to go to what Ron's saying, I think he's touching on something very important, because there's a mentality where a person could say, I'm going to graduate from school, where's my job? And there's a different kind of mentality which is going to say, I'm going to create jobs and I'm going to build my own business. I'm not knocking Pittsburgh for that. That is lacking somewhat. And I think that's a great thing to cultivate, and the resources are there. So I'm very optimistic about Pittsburgh. I think it's a great place. The economy is really strong here. We've got incredibly strong companies that are based here. There's nothing to feel bad about Pittsburgh's economy.
And we need to point to these entrepreneurial heroes. Not myself, but I'm just saying, people that have built, not Glenn Meekum. I mean, Glenn's done a fabulous job. Built a great company, never made a profit, never made a dime in profit, so I always remind Glenn of that, okay? But built a great company. It would have made profits if it would have stuck around. And those guys are well known. But we need to put the spotlight on these mid-range people that are building businesses, not necessarily high-tech, but building solid, interesting, niche-oriented businesses of 100, 200, 300 people that pay their taxes, grow slowly, as you were saying, and instead of, I'm so sick of seeing Jim Rohr on the, Jim Rohr is a steward. There were, at one point, there was an entrepreneur or two that started what is today PNC Bank. Fine, he went to the right schools, knows the right people, and sits in the top seat. But there are guys that have busted their butts, started with nothing, $5. There's a woman that's hopefully going to be our commencement speaker, Duquesne, started with a cement truck and $2,500, and now has the largest construction company in the country. I can't think of her name, and she's a Mexican American. Those are the people we should celebrate.
I think you can celebrate Jim too, because I think he has the right mentality, because he's a promoter of the region. I understand what you're saying about stewardship versus starting something up, but I think optimism is a good thing. I think he's an example of that. So just in his defense.
Yeah. Well, in his defense, but I do think we can't show the populace of Pittsburgh Jim Rohr and whoever the heck's running Alcoa right now, and these same guys over and over. We should show them the mid-range entrepreneurs and show them. And here's how they did. So, because so many people think this can't be done. I can't do this. People go up to the street and say, how do you make a payroll?
And we're heading off to break, guys. So when we come back, Rick, I want to get you into this, and I want to talk a little bit more about what the governor said about announcing 2,600 new jobs. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Hello, I'm Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University, and we are getting to the point tonight. Glad that you can join us. It's wonderful to be here. And I wanted to turn a question over to Rick Stouffer from the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. And you had written an article earlier in the year talking about veteran entrepreneurs and basically angel funds. And, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that as far as spurring the growth in the local area.
Yeah, 3 local entrepreneurs, Angler, and I don't remember the other 2 because my mind just went blank.
Stephen Robinson and Robert Dixon.
I talked to all 3 of them for that story. Have been in the business a long time, and they were chosen by the greenhouse and a couple other groups to head up this new, what used to be known as the Pittsburgh Angel Fund, and now it's going to be under a new name.
And now it's going to be Pittsburgh Early Growth Partners.
And they're being seeded with $2 million from all the players, and basically said, okay, now you go out, you raise funds, and then you find the companies to invest in. Now these guys have been doing this a long time. Dixon, I believe, for 25 years. So obviously they know their stuff. And like you were saying, the money's never a problem if you've got the idea and you've got the determination to go. Well, these guys are going to be looking for just that. And it's going to be high-tech related stuff. This area, and again, I think a lot of people in this area still have the mentality that the steel industry left in the 80s and there's nothing that's ever going to replace it. Well, you have to look past that, and certainly high-tech, certainly healthcare, biosciences, not as strong on this end of the state as on the eastern end of the state, but still. There are a lot of small companies that are into these types of things. They're just going gangbusters, but you never hear about them because A, we don't know about them because they're very focused on what they're doing. You know, they don't need the publicity, at least right now. They're busy doing what they're doing, getting themselves set up and established and making their contacts and whatever and moving forward.
But that seems to be where our future is. That's where we're going.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what happened within the last couple of weeks where you had Sony announce that, I mean, and this is the third strike for that plant. And remember back in the 60s, that was a Chrysler plant that was going to be built that never got past the shell stage. Then you had VW come in, open up their first American plant. That lasted 10 years. They left. Sony came in I believe, 90. They started producing in 92, and now they don't produce anything. They assemble in that plant, and between 800 and 900 people are going to lose their jobs between next month and June or July.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
Now you have the argument, okay, the state threw $75 million at VW, they threw 40 plus at Sony, what'd you get for it? And you could argue that all day. But those types of things don't come along all the time. And so where are you going to put your money? Well, maybe you need, since you have finite resources, maybe you concentrate a little more on the little guys. Because Mercedes-Benz doesn't come along every day. Toyota doesn't come along every day. And so you have to balance things because there is a finite pot.
And you can bet 20 horses for the price of one.
Yeah.
You can put markers on 20 startups
That's
as
right.
opposed to one Sony.
Sure.
And Dan, your expertise is manufacturing, so
I think it's problematic when government gets into throwing money at wealthy companies, and it's not. Pennsylvania is not the only government that's guilty of it. It's a nationwide thing. Companies are very skilled at playing states against states. They have to play the game. There's an old saying, hate the game, don't hate the player. And I think that's the situation we're dealing with here. How to resolve that, I don't know. I think what Ron's saying is a good idea. Bet on some smaller horses. Don't get seduced by these interglobal players who can, who want millions of dollars from you. And Sony's a great example of that. Westinghouse is going to move from Monroeville to Cranberry. There's going to be some tax abatement there. They're going to have 15 years of freedom from taxes. That's not taking away money that was there. It's simply saying you're not going to be able to collect on this company. That's a slightly milder game, and the Westinghouse move is huge.
yeah,
and it's great
and
to
we're
have
thrilled to have them because I think they looked at North Carolina, South Carolina, and Connecticut too.
That's correct.
So it's even though Monroeville I think is upset that they're moving.
It's going to hurt
to
them.
Cranberry. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And the other thing about betting on the little guys, again, 20 to 1 or whatever it is the money's going to be used a lot more efficiently by those smaller companies. And I guarantee you that. And I know all I have here is anecdotal, but smaller companies husband their resources, they get the most for their money, and they themselves are more likely to deal with startup type companies, and thus a lot of bigger companies will buy their printing from a centralized location in Chicago or somewhere, and that money just goes away.
Yeah.
We got to keep the money in town.
Yeah.
Well, we're going off to pay some bills. We're going to hopefully help some entrepreneurs or some businesses in the local area. So pay attention to that, and we'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. This is Audrey Gustin. We're having a little bit of March Madness fun tonight, and hopefully you're here, pulled up a chair and relaxed and joining us. I've got some fabulous guests who have really the pulse on Pittsburgh. We're talking about Pittsburgh economy, manufacturing, and I want to sort of shift gears a little bit and talk about environmental issues and socially conscious companies. And we're finding that that's increasing in the Pittsburgh area, and there's more money. I think the governor has announced that he's going to be giving some more money for what you can perhaps call green marketing or environmental issues. I'm very excited that Duquesne is also going to be introducing a new MBA program coming this summer, more sustainable enterprise. And what we're hoping to do is let people know, particularly students, that you can be profitable, you can be good to people, and you can help your planet. So it's sort of the 3 Ps of sustainable enterprise. And I wanted to turn it over to these guys and see what they think, because they've written articles, and I know, Ron, you've talked about that on your show a couple times. So let's start with you, Dan.
Sure.
You've done solar things, and you've talked to some companies as far as what they're attempting to do to hopefully keep our environment going for quite a while.
Well, Pittsburgh, again, I'm going to be this Pittsburgh optimist, but I think Pittsburgh's doing a really good job of raising awareness about green building and the economic benefits of that. And we have the Green Building Alliance here on the south side that's holding national forums and showing people that it's not simply just pro-environmentalism, it's pro-business, and businesses are getting it. Businesses are sharp, and they realize that they can increase their bottom lines if they save energy and they have sustainable building materials. So we're raising the awareness. It's definitely catching on.
You're right, because a lot of times companies think, well, if I'm going to be environmentally conscious, then it's going to cost me more money and I'm not going to make profits in the long run.
Right.
But a lot of times the profits come as a result of that.
That's right. The market is inevitably going to go to that place because businesses are going to figure it out, and they are figuring out with their energy costs and how they're building, and they're getting there.
Mm-hmm. And Rick, you've also done some work in this area.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to Governor Rendell, who is taking a lead, I think, of throughout the country in terms of getting people to think more about green-related things. And I'm thinking just off the top of my head, one of the things that he proposed in his budget has to do with solar power, specifically for residential use, and which is very expensive right now. But with the program that he would like to put in place, that would actually cut the cost to install a solar-powered system in a house by half, 50%, which cuts it down, I think, from about 20 to about 10, which is still rather expensive, but over the long haul, and that's what you have to think, you're going to actually save money because natural gas is going to continue to be very expensive because that's actually a finite product. We're blessed with coal in Western PA, but until we actually get some plants going that turn coal either into natural gas and then burn that, or use more waste coal, which is just starting to kick off in this state, that's going to be a problem. Electricity is continually going up. I know for a fact I live in Mercer County, and they went off the rate cap in January, and my prices, or the price for my to heat my house, just well, let's just say we wear a lot of sweaters in my house when it's cold. But anyway, I give him a lot of credit. That's one area that he's pushing. He's also pushing wind power in the state, which is good. I mean, we have Gamesa, which is the, I believe, second largest wind provider in the world. They set up a manufacturing plant in Evansburg, not too far down the road from here. They set up their North American headquarters in Philly. They're also putting together wind farms. They're actually having installations of wind power. So he's very, I think he's very future thinking when it comes to things like that, which is related to green, because we're talking alternative fuels.
And they're also building them in Erie, the windmills. And
Yes.
I'm proud to say that Duquesne, as you know, Ron, is self-sufficient. We have our own energy source. And the new building that we're putting, the new center, is going to be a green building. So we're, thrilled and very proud of that. Are you familiar with any entrepreneurs or any businesses who are moving in this?
Yeah, and by the way, 2 nights ago I heard Bobby Kennedy speak at the Robert Morris Speaker Series. Am I allowed to talk about a competitor?
Yes, you can.
Okay, all right.
But don't say it again.
All right, okay. And he, first of all, he's a wonderful speaker. Were you anybody there? Oh, it was incredible. I'd love to get a copy of that speech. But he was talking about the wind farms off of Hyannis. Actually, they're building him within view of his place. So you know, now you've got the ultimate.
Angry about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, for obvious reasons. Yeah. I mean, he's a
Not my backyard.
yeah. He's a stone cold environmentalist, and then they put 450-foot windmills 3 miles from his home. You know, he wants to move 5 miles further out, and it's all about depth of water and the cost of putting the things up. But anyway, in hearing him speak that night, he really opened my eyes about how much megawattage we can generate from these wind farms, and what's going on, of course, in Europe. I had a guy on my program the other day, and I wish I could remember his name. He was 73 years old, energy out the wazoo. I mean, this guy is incredibly energetic. But he has invented a plasma furnace that incinerates everything, A to Z, and more importantly, the byproduct of that process generates clean fuel. Okay, and I am at a loss. I went out and bought stock in this company that very same day, or the first Monday. But I can't understand why this hasn't caught on. And anybody that may have seen this, it was in Popular Science last month. But you know, one of our biggest problems, you know, Pennsylvania is taking garbage. I don't know if people know this, but they're taking garbage from New York City.
Right.
We are, come on, bring us your garbage. And that's something you don't hear about. And so, you know, that's a huge problem that's got to be solved. And I do think this gentleman, I wish I could remember his name. If anybody's interested, they can go to my website at taeradio.com and look it up. And
But that's another thing we're doing. We're creating fuel from garbage in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So we're setting up, you know, methane gas pipelines out of these landfills, which is amazing.
It is amazing.
You know?
It is amazing. And it's a hockey night in Pittsburgh. Well, at least it will be after the break. We're going to talk about sports in Pittsburgh and how it boosts the economy and the fact that the Pens are staying here. Was anyone surprised by that? We'll be back. Hello, I'm Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University, and you are here with us at Night Talk, Get to the Point. And I watch John Fedko every night on his talk show, and he's always saying how his shows are Emmy Award winning and the best. And John, I think we beat you tonight with these fabulous guests. And we're going to start to steal some of your material too, because we want to talk about sports in Pittsburgh, and we want to talk about the Pens in particular. You probably are all aware of what's happened. The Pens have entered into a 29.5-year program lease with the new arena. They're going to be paying $3.8 million. It's $400,000 a year for capital expenses, and you're looking at $7.5 million from Don Barden, and it's going to be $290 million only. What a bargain! And so let me talk to Dan, because Dan, you've dabbled, worked in written articles, many articles about sports in Pittsburgh. You know, obviously, this is a very good thing for the Pittsburgh area.
I think Pittsburgh has this great mix, and I think sports are definitely a part of that. And I think the Penguins got an incredible deal. I think they were brilliant negotiators front and back. They got Isle of Capri to get involved with the arena issue. When they lost the license, they shed them and went to their plan B, and it came through for them very well. They used the media brilliantly. We were all victims, and they got it done. And it's great that they're going to be here. Pittsburgh has sports as part of its mix. We can argue back and forth about, again, whether we should be using public money to build arenas. I guess it's been argued before. Yeah. You know.
Mm-hmm. Rick, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I agree that Mario got a great deal. He would be very dumb if he got this deal and then decided to sell. I mean, why should he sell? He's got a great deal. He's going to have a brand new state-of-the-art arena. He's got the best young team in hockey. Hey, I'll stick around for a few years. But Mario just, I mean, he played everybody against everybody else, and the politicians just, you know, they were slobbering over themselves to make the deal work, and you always had Kansas City in the background with the Sprint Center just sitting there, just waiting for somebody to come in and set up shop. So I mean, it was just he's a great marketer.
Mm-hmm, absolutely is. And he's done wonders for the city when you think about what he's done and accomplished as a player as well as an owner, and I think a community leader. He's done a lot of things. Yeah. Ron, I know that you know him, so
yeah. Well,
you used to live in the same neighborhood for a while there.
He's a very. The thing I like about Mario is that one of the during the summer or the fall negotiations, they asked him what he thought, and I'll never forget. He said, "One thing I've learned from all this is that all politicians lie all the time." You know? And I think really, I think it's almost like when Father Karras went up the stairs. You know, you have to keep reminding yourself when you're dealing with these guys that they're not business guys. You know, I mean, some of them have it down, have the moves down, but they're not thinking like business guys. He never lost sight of who he was dealing with, and I just think he kicked Rendell's butt, and I loved it.
We were talking before about how companies play states against each other, and politicians in this case were in the exact same boat. They were in a no-win situation. The media was going to do the Penguins' PR work for them. They were going to torture them if they didn't give them the deal. They were going to claim that it was going to be Rendell's fault. It was going to be Mayor Ravenstall's fault if the Penguins left, which was a baseless claim. That was never going to be their fault.
But never was a May 15th election, which by happenstance happened to be sitting right there, more propitious than it was at that moment for Mario.
That's right.
Yeah, and how thrilled we are. I mean, when you really think about the Pittsburgh area, and whether it's the Pens we're talking about, the Steelers, the Pirates, Pitt now, and Duquesne, of course, we're absolutely thrilled. And hopefully all of our viewers know that Duquesne is going to be honored with the Heroic Award because of all the crises that we went through.
That went on,
and you know, it's truly an honor. And you know, we look at the campus run at Duquesne and how the fans came alive, and some of the games were practically sold out, almost standing room only. And you know, just last year that wasn't the case. And so sports tends to bring an energy and an excitement.
It does.
And it's a good motivator and a pumper.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at March Madness as we've been living through these past couple of weeks, and people are betting and having their brackets, and they've even talked about job productivity and how we're going to lose $3.8 billion as a result of
give me a break.
People. Which, you know, when you think about it, maybe that's the case. But hey, people are having fun with it, and they're staying at work a little bit longer. And so, you know, that tends to work. We're going to go for a break right now. We won't be back. Stay with us. This is Audrey Gusky with Get to the Point. Welcome back, class. Oh, I forgot where we are. I thought maybe I was at Duquesne with my students. Good to have you here. I am Audrey Gusky from Duquesne, and with me is Ron Morris, also from Duquesne, and the star of the American Entrepreneur Radio Show. We have Dan Reynolds from the Pittsburgh Business Times, and we have Rick Stouffer from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Let's talk casinos. During the break, we were sort of hedging our bets and sharing some information about, you know, some of the latest developments as far as the casino and whether we think it's going to be successful. Dan, you want to start us off on it?
Well, sure. I think that casino license, if we're just talking about the casino success, was very hotly contested because I think all those companies knew to get a monopoly license in Pittsburgh was going to be a great thing, and they really wanted it, and that's why they think they filed these appeals, because it wasn't lightly sought after, and they're going to keep going for it. So I think on their end, it's going to be a great proposition. We were talking on the break about how sure are we about this funding flow for this arena 30 years out? And Ron asked a very good question. Are there guarantees in place that the casino money is going to be there 20 years out from now?
Yeah. I mean, Don Barton's a business guy, and in 10 years from now, the thing, you know, say West Virginia puts table games in, which we know they're going to do anyway, and you know, let's face it, gambling will become ubiquitous. I'm not for that at all, but it will. It's a free market event. It'll find its equilibrium point. And anybody, you know, one thing I know about business is when somebody's making big fat margins, it's not going to be that way a couple years from now, because other people will move in until it equilibriumizes. And did I say that right?
So it's a nice word.
Yes, it is. Yeah, right. Yeah. So when that happens, that's why I'm sure Barton wants to get this thing up and running and skim as much as he can up front. But when that happens, what happens if he says, "Yeah, I'm out of here"? I mean, what are they going to do? Launch
I'm even wondering if they're going to make as much money initially as they're saying they're going to make, because, you know, I mean, it's not going to be the end of all, you know, the answer to all our prayers, because there are so many other options that people can go to gamble. And so I'm just wondering, are they actually initially going to make the amount of money that they're thinking?
Well, I know that the casino in Erie that just opened a couple weeks ago is doing extremely well.
Sure. And
I know
will at the beginning.
At the beginning, because they're new. They're like anything that's new. It's like a new store. New whatever, you know, it's got the cachet, at least initially. Now, 5 years from now, once it opens,
He's going to get tired of writing those $7.5 million
Yeah.
checks. I know
I
he is.
think
I think he's already tired of it.
Yeah.
But I think the darker side of the whole casino issue is that the government, and I don't want to knock the government too hard, but the government is saying here, we want to introduce gambling to cure our own
Yeah.
self-created ills. We cannot control the size of our government. We need to create new revenue streams, which is in essence a new tax. And we're going to promise you things based on this new revenue stream. That's problematic, and I think it's a case of just being adolescent in your viewpoint.
Yeah.
You have to face facts in the state of Pennsylvania. You have to reduce the size of your legislature. You have to control government spending. Casinos are not the way to get there. And that's not an anti-gambling or pro-gambling stance. It's just...
it's true.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
remember property tax reform.
Yeah.
Where's that? It's now,
We're waiting.
they've spent $28 million off the top to level the development site for the Penguins. I mean, he's writing big checks out of the gambling fund, and nobody's generated a dime yet. It's very scary, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think with everything being on hold as far as, the two losers going after it, Barden is now suggesting that, hey, he wants that revenue that he's losing because he's on
Wouldn't you?
hold now.
Yeah, I mean, I would. if
He
that
was,
were-
starting
He's
out with
ready
a
to go.
he was starting out with a March 2008 starting point, and he just keeps getting pushed.
It's
And all
June
the
or
benefits
July
you're
now,
supposed
yeah.
to see from that are going to get pushed back. So I'm not totally cynical in the long run the money's not going to be there. It's just that we're looking for property tax relief. It's something pre-casino that was pledged again and again, and it's still not here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't trust the government on that promise. I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm also concerned about maybe
What
the
Mario
seedy
said.
aspects of it too. I mean, what's going to happen to the area? I mean, we're going to have a lot of riffraff and things perhaps that we didn't want. I think things that we didn't anticipate. It happened in Detroit. It's happened in other areas, so it may
Except in
happen with
Atlantic
us.
City.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
go off the boardwalk, nothing's changed. In fact, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a lot of built-in problems with gambling
Well,
that everybody
I'll give you-
seems to...
I'm a recovering gambler. I have a rubber band right here on this wrist, and I wear it to remind me some 30 years ago, or 28 years ago now, 27, I lost a business because of gambling. And I had 65 employees, and they all lost their jobs because I was stealing from my own company. It's true. You can look it up. I went to GA. And I was in a position to, I say steal, to expropriate money from my own company. So I was in a position to basically loot millions of dollars. But it just takes a few guys. There are so many people out there. I mean, I've been to a GA meeting for a long time, and I probably should go. But you hear those stories. There are people that just can't help themselves. And I don't see the state of Pennsylvania doing one whit to put systems in place to address the fact that there are going to be problem gamblers created by this
Well, that's
thing.
part of the law. I mean, it is written into the law, and I think casinos are going to.
Have you seen how much money they've allocated for it?
Well, that's an issue. I think there's an issue with how well people are being trained to deal with gambling addiction. I think it's a real issue.
I think it's an issue too, and it's something we're going to have to deal with. And I think a lot of people haven't faced that yet. But we have to go to a break, and we will be back shortly. Please stick with us. One more segment. Lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Not really.
Oh, are we back already? Oh, we're back, guys. And I just happened to be reading one of my favorite newspapers, in addition to my other favorite newspaper, can't play favorites here. And maybe you have noticed in the Pittsburgh Business Times, the very end, of course they save the best for last, a beautiful column called Service Roles, written by a certain marketing professor at Duquesne.
Who would she be?
So I don't know who that would be, but this one column was about taking service lessons from the soup Nazi. I met the soup Nazi.
Did you?
In this studio about a week and a half ago. A great guy, and it got me thinking about customer service and the fact that, I mean, how often do you get to go to a place? There's soup for you. That's a rare thing.
What about service? What about Nordstrom's? Are they going to have a big impact? I'm curious about that.
Well, I mean, obviously they're an upscale department store. There's something we need in the area. They've been saying they're coming forever. Hopefully they will be coming. We couldn't support Lord & Taylor's here. We've lost Lazarus. We've lost Kaufman's, in a sense, becoming Macy's. So you bring up a real good point, and you guys are expert on this as well as I am. And, what is the retail picture like in the Pittsburgh area, whether it's downtown or western Pennsylvania? We've got landslides coming through. We've got Walmart Walmart saying that they've now taken over
Right.
in Killbuck County.
Developer.
And do you know that Walmart today had a big party for all of their, how many millions of employees, 1.3 million that they have, and they gave away $500 million
Bonuses.
Wow.
bonuses. Yeah.
Wow.
But so Rick, what do you think? What do you think of that?
Retailers, developers, I liken developers to surgeons. Surgeons are paid to cut. Developers are paid to develop. As long as they can get the money, they're going to develop a property. As far as retailers go, there's always a new retailer out there. A lot of entrepreneurial type retailers.
Don't you think we're getting oversaturated?
Well,
It makes me very nervous.
I do think we are, and you, I sometimes wonder what's the next big thing going to be, because we've had so many next big things over the years that it's beyond me to think of what's going to happen. You mentioned about Federated determining that Macy's was going to be the flagship for the entire nation, and they were going to change everybody to become a Macy's.
The national department store.
I don't know how that flies, because I always think, even though there are national retailers, that retail is a very local business. Kaufman's. I mean, Kaufman's is synonymous with Pittsburgh. Carson Peary Scott, I believe. Marshall Fields in Chicago.
Right, and they're all gone.
And they're all gone now, and they're all Macy's.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that there's something to this entrepreneurial spirit issue and retail and downtown and Pittsburgh's neighborhoods. And I think that the downtown issue is still a problem. You don't have that kind of commercial feel when you're downtown. And I think there is a problem with the big boxes and the big chains being your savior all the time. That entrepreneurial spirit, apply that to Pittsburgh's neighborhoods, apply it to downtown. Go ahead and open your little shop, your freaky little shop. It doesn't have to be the consumer marketed, tested chain. Just do your thing here. And Pittsburgh's a beautiful city, and you could do it there.
Which is, Ron, getting to your expertise area, the entrepreneurs. I always like the little guys versus the big guys.
Oh, sure.
I won't go to Walmart's.
No, whenever I can, I patronize. There's a little store up on Green Tree Road, Green Tree Hardware. I will go there to buy before I'll ever go into Home Depot. Unfortunately, it's just me, I mean, it's not, but I do think that we've got to. It's not just keeping the little guy in business too. It's keeping the money in Pittsburgh, and that's another thing that I see. We were talking earlier about sports, and sports is great. But I look at the payroll, and that payroll flies around the country. It goes away, we need businesses that keep the velocity of money here. I mean, economists tell you that every dollar, results in subsequent dollars, and that's an issue I have. As we bring in more of these big boxers, those profits are flowing to Georgia.
Right.
Those profits are flowing up to Minnesota, and they're not staying here. And our citizens have got to understand that you keep the local guy in business, because he's the one who's going to buy from you, and patronize businesses that keep the money in town.
And hopefully that's one thing that our viewers have been able to get from the show tonight, is the pride of Pittsburgh, the power of Pittsburgh, the things we can actually do, and keep the money here and keep the people here, especially the young people.
Buy Iron City.
Buy Iron City, which is also another issue, which we'll talk about the next show.
Okay.
I wanted to thank my guest, Ron Morris from Duquesne University and American Entrepreneur. Thank Dan Reynolds from the Pittsburgh Business Times, and Rick Stouffer from the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. I am Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University, and I thank you for joining us, and I have to say hello and send my love to all my students, guys, because I know you're all watching. Good to have you here, and join us again on Get to the Point.